Good morning, lovely souls. It's Friday again, and week 7 of the Woodland Chronicles, and we're having a little bit of a warmer spell in the UK at the moment, and feels like that spring energy is rolling in really nicely. So hope you all had a beautiful week, or a week that has been the provision of expansion in whatever way possible. First of all, I just want to kind of touch on the subject of ourselves, our nervous systems, the physical representation of us, our electrical composition, within the nervous system, the water within our bodies, and how we're dealing with this huge surge of light that's coming. Now, the surge of light was allocated for the December gateway, and you've heard me talking about it before if you followed the channel. We have stepped into what can only be described as a unified and very pressurized field. Now, to adjust to that, we're having to take way more into our four body systems than we would do normally. This all happened at once. So as previously we would be given periods of time to get used to energies and to flow, and maybe to kind of dip our toes in and test the waters a little bit. This just happened. Okay, it was happened, and it's been quite remarkable to witness how we as physical human souls are having to adjust to this higher frequency. It's taking a lot of us by surprise, and we're having to make real concerted life changes in order to adapt and allow our very sometimes lit up and stressed nervous systems to cope and to integrate with this higher light frequency. So what's the best way to deal with this? You know, like you might be listening to me now, you might be feeling Friday fabulous and everything's absolutely great, or you might be feeling a little bit like you have been pulled for a wrangle or a mangle or whatever it is. You remember what those medieval things that they used to squeeze the water out of the clothes with? A little bit like that. So you might feel like you've been through one of them recently, and you're feeling like you just need to rest and recuperate and honor yourself. And honoring yourself is usually one of the biggest tasks, or one of the hardest tasks that we have on the light path, because especially if you are in a position where people are relying on you, and we have that in all walks of life. We have that in family, we have that with work, we have that with the spiritual field and friendship circles, everything like this. At some point you have to say, I'm doing what's right for me, and you step back. And I've talked about the the self-love aspect of our journey many times, and David Esri and I are coming together on Monday, on the 20th, and we've got a lovely and very powerful workshop to be offering, and we're going to be working with self-love and how it is ultimately the main event on the spiritual pathway, because you can use the terms love and light and all of the other things that you hear bandied around in the spiritual field on a very regular basis, but until you love yourself and you make those provisions for yourself, unless you apply that self-love to you, everything else that you do will be done under a different set of terms and conditions, and it will always take more from you than you have to give eventually. So yeah, that's where I'm going with that. So those of you who are feeling like your nervous system is stressed at the moment, take that time to integrate. Do whatever you are guided to do, which will allow you to recenter, to recalibrate. It might be a day or two that you need, or it might be weeks, or even a month. You know, if we step back like this, one of the first things that tends to kind of go off as an alarm bell is like, without me, the ascension process will fail. What happens if all of the exciting stuff happens while I'm resting and recuperating? Well, don't worry, because there's plenty of exciting stuff to be going around at the moment. Okay, you're not gonna miss out on the main event because you step back. So unburden yourself from that feeling of responsibility if you feel it weighing heavily upon your shoulders, and give yourself some time to recuperate. And who knows, you might fall so deeply in love with that state of recuperation that you never come back out again, and for that might be your pathway. It might be a peaceful cocoon of self-love for the rest of your incarnation. Who's to say? It's your soul choice at the end of the day. So we are still integrating that calibration of light. It was big, way bigger than any of us were told that it was going to be. Or maybe we were told, maybe I was told, but in my current scope of analysis and understanding, I didn't quite realise just how big they meant. One thing I've noticed over the years is that we get little sprinklings of information that give us just about enough to be working with, and the rest is then down to us when it is presented. And that's kind of part of the test, it's part of the mission. It's what makes this such a kind of remarkable adventure and endeavour to be working with, is the fact that we've got to be on our toes all the time if we're working in the field, if we're receiving this information. And we deal with that state and condition far better if we're relaxed, if we're in a state of acceptance, love, internal harmony, and we are able to radiate that outwards as well as we are applying it to ourselves. So that this nervous system thing will continue at the moment. I think it's going to be a big theme for this year, with everything else that's going on around the world, and we are adjusting, and it's the intensity of that application of light that will be waking people up around us. If you're wanting to know what I said previously about 2023 is another big wake-up year, this is why, because the baffles have been taken off the exhaust basically, and it's creating noise at full blast. And for everybody who's remained asleep so diligently for the last 3 years or so, that platform no longer, that protection, that ability to stay veiled and not seeing, no longer exists. So it is only a matter of time now. Okay, now the other thing I want to talk about is the rising global events. Now, wherever you are in the world, whatever country you live in, you will be noticing things are starting to occur at an increased pace. Now, if you're looking at it from a point of 3D versus 5D, which is how a lot of us view this, many teachers on the spiritual pathway talk about a spiritual war, light versus dark. Yeah, on a surface level, you might describe what the butting of heads as a conflict, but ultimately this is resistance from the old way, the old matrix, to the inflow of consciousness and light, and it's pointless resistance. Okay, this is we're watching all of this happen, and it's just like, well, why bother? Just hand your keys back in. This is a universal operation. It's not something that can be stopped by under the table alchemy, sleight of hand, veiled words, and the attempted restriction, or even like all of the things that are occurring around the world at the moment that we can see in the news that are lighting up maybe our sense of survival, genuine situations which are putting communities and families and ways of life under pressure and in danger. These are all results of this kind of mass panic by the matrix to anchor down and retain control, even though in the deepest parts of their souls, the ones that are still, the part of them that is still connected to source, despite all of the thousands of years of layers and covering up that they've attempted to do, they still know the truth. Okay, they know that the global awakening is here, and they know it's not a stoppable, it's not an optional event. It's not something that can be just switched off at will or at random with any force of magic or any circumstances whatsoever. The only way that they can retain a modicum of power is to attempt to keep people plugged into it for as long as possible. And so this is what we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing every single kind of effort to being made, and particularly like my attention has been drawn to the United States and what has occurred in Ohio, which many of you will know about on some level, and that is what we would class as a genuine but you know, it's a climate catastrophe with what has actually occurred. If you look at the energy that's behind it, it's all part of the increasing pressure to keep people living in dependence of, say, the state, or kind of subject to things that take the power out of their hands. And obviously at the moment we're still watching and seeing how this occurs and what the responses to it are, and maybe wondering a little bit like, you know, where's the huge influx of all of the kind of the eco activists now when something genuine has occurred? Where are they? Okay, and this highlights again so vibrantly how the words of the 3D matrix are just simply empty. They're flamboyancy for show. So when we're presented with this, it can very often give us a rise of fear or righteous anger, and from that we kind of garner and gauge a response on how to deal with it. I've said this previously when we've felt or we've seen situations occurring that are going to be here. They're going to be here right before our eyes, and they're going to challenge us. Regardless of what comes out of that gate, when the gates open, we stand our ground and we hold our line and we hold our light. Okay, absolutely. We are the resolute flames of this planet. Okay, we are the ones who are at this moment in time holding the capacity to anchor the I am presence on earth, and in doing that, we then offer the space, the light, and the opportunity for all of the other souls who also have that capacity to step up and do so. But in order to do so, we have to be resolute. We have to do that with such certainty, such fortitude, and such, in many cases, it takes courage, it takes bravery to stand up and actually witness your own feelings when you are presented with something which is genuinely challenging and frightening, and to hold the light, to not move into a space of fear, to not move into a space of anger. And we're going to really see and have the opportunity to witness and experience the field of that challenge at the moment. And I was listening earlier on to an incredible kind of an astrological analysis from the lovely Pam Gregory, who is just an absolute master of witnessing the nuts and the bolts of these situations and putting it into information that we can understand. And she's talking about Saturn moving into Pisces, and this happens in March, and that, of course, Pisces represents water. Saturn represents the austerity of 3D control at the level that this is going to be working on. So all eyes are going to be upon the water, and I'm going to put the link to Pam's presentation in the text if you don't already follow her. have a look at what she's got to say on this, because I talk about what I can see, but Pam talks about the actual construction of the astrology that is creating the space for these events to occur. So please tune in. So we're moving through a very, very interesting, very, very challenging time at the moment, as you can all feel. And again, it requires us to just be as centered as possible, to be that anchored, vibrant and strong, resolute flame where we are simply shining. And if you are feeling called to do work to assist the planet, then do it immediately. And sometimes this is very, very effective on an individual level, or you can be working as a group. Many of the times that if I'm running a Zoom event online, there is no better an opportunity to use, say, the last 15 minutes or half an hour to everybody collectively place focus, manifestation and intent into bringing light, anchoring a frequency, creating the gateways and a rolling ball for energies to flow into places and situations and scenarios. So it would be really helpful at the moment, I believe, to maybe spend time each morning with your crystal visualizing vast quantities of light flowing into Ohio, bringing the unicorns in, bringing the dragons in, bringing the elementals in, everybody who can hold space and retain the high frequency vibration that is needed to counter what is occurring. But it's not the only place in the world, as we know, and there's other parts of the United States, there's other places in every country on this amazing planet where things are occurring, and they're being done in a way that is, first of all, just very distracting for us. You know, we our ultimate, you know, what we want to do on a daily basis is be left in peace, isn't it? Let's be honest about it. We want to live in peace, we want to live in harmony, we want to live within the comfort and the radiance of our own heart centers, in alignment with other people that are on that particular wavelength of energy. And at the moment it's very hard to do so, even so much as all I've seen this week in my news feed is posts and reposts about what's been going on in the British celebrity media, and the most shared post is a ridiculous outfit worn by a celebrity, which in actual fact is very, if the memes that have kind of broken this down have actually been nothing short of hilarious. So there's lots of humor that comes out of it, but there's also an incredible amount of distraction. Don't be distracted, okay? Do not let things that are coming in from the sky or stuff that's being placed in the media from distracting you, okay? If there's something coming through the media channels, they want you to look at that instead of looking at what's actually going on in the field. It's the oldest trick in the book. Deflect and distract. Bring the attention there. Bring the point of manifestation to whatever's the most interesting and shouting the loudest. And because we've got so much availability for these distractions, and because there is so much of it, and I mentioned in my last video about, instead of just having one major thing occurring like we did in 2020, there was only one thing that was happening in 2020 at the beginning of the year, this time 3 years ago. This time there's multiple efforts to bring everybody back into a state of fear. Move away from distraction. Move away from distraction. When you feel yourself being drawn in that direction, when you think and you can feel your frequency or your vibration change, bring it back to center. It's all about our personal discipline, retaining that resolute flame. So just to recap, fried nervous systems need love, okay? They need rest, they need support, they need time, and they need space. And we can only expect so much of ourselves when we are going through so many changes on an individual level, but we're also anchoring in that support field. Okay, again, I refer to the changes in the kind of terms and conditions of working for Kathumi's Brotherhood of the Golden Robe, where everybody is now acting as a unified support field for all of these people who are beginning to pour their consciousness and their focus and intention into the spiritual field. The spiritual field is growing massively. It's unrecognizable in the quantity of souls joining it compared to where it was 3 years ago. That is cause for celebration, but we also have to make sure that these souls are guided and supported correctly. Because you know what it's like when you first wake up. You need people around you who are stable, who are grounded, who that you can rely on. So be that reliable source of light and support. Or if you're not feeling that you're able to do that at this particular time, be stepping out and setting the example of honouring and resting and recuperating and creating creating those boundaries around you that allow others to see how to be when you need to step back. Okay, so that's all from me this morning. I'm thoroughly enjoying this beautiful spring weather, and I will see you online with David on Monday night, but I'll also be back on the Monday morning with a meditation Monday. So sending you all so much love from my heart to yours, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.